Bathroom Breaks and Bedtime Tales presents Aloha by Sevastian Winters. Charlotte pressed her forehead to the cold tile wall and tried not to feel anything. Don't cry until it's over. She wanted to scream, or disappear, or rewind time to 2 days earlier, when she and Maria were barefoot in the grass outside their hostel in Auckland, splitting a mango, juice sticky on their fingers, music spilling from someone's tinny speaker. The sun had been warm and easy. Their laughter had come quick. Their plan was Hawaii next, 5 weeks. Then Costa Rica. Charlotte had dreamed of this world tour with her best friend for months. Music and dancing, food and drinks, experiences, and the discovery and joy that comes from free-floating around the world with nothing but searching for the next great adventure in mind. Hotels? Nah, they would figure it out on the fly. Wherever the party was, that's where they would be. They would find places to crash along the way. They were only going to be young once, right? That was all over now. The young girl who was greeted with a lei had been stripped out of her clothes, out of her smile, out of her skin, and out of her dignity for the crime of being a tourist. And then she was shoved into a concrete room alone, where she willed herself not to scream, willed herself not to cry, sat like a common criminal in a locked room in a U.S. customs facility under Honolulu International Airport. She tried to forget, but she couldn't. Not yet. She had no idea what would happen next. She set her jaw angrily. She would not forget. Not ever. There were gloves, cold lubricant jelly, a stranger with a badge and a gun. Charlotte was told to bend. She did. She was told to spread. She did. She was told not to resist. She didn't. A stranger searched her body like she was nothing more than a container. No name, no humanity, no empathy, just protocol. She had forced herself not to scream. That would have made it worse. She just tried to go somewhere else in her mind, somewhere distant. A memory, maybe. A joke Maria had told in Fiji. A night sky full of stars and salt air. Something untouchable. She couldn't even remember where now, because it hadn't worked. She didn't know where Maria was. But when she did finally see her dear friend again, back in that cold green room, her best friend's eyes were hollowed out. Something had been scooped from inside them. Like Charlotte, part of Maria was gone. They did not hug. They did not speak. They just sat, bare feet on the concrete, backs against opposite walls, and waited for the next violation. The U.S. officer who finally delivered the news didn't meet their eyes. "You're being removed from the country." Charlotte asked why. Just once. The answer was paper-thin. Lack of sufficient documentation. Suspicion of unauthorized work intent. "But we didn't do anything," Maria whispered. The officer didn't respond, didn't care. He left the room. The buzz of the light overhead filled the silence. They sat for 2 more hours. No food, no water, no apology. At 3:14 a.m., 2 men in uniform returned. The chains were real. Waist, wrists, ankles. Metal on bare skin. Not so tight as to injure, just tight enough to humiliate. Charlotte saw Maria flinch as they walked her down the hall. Neither of them cried, neither spoke. They were marched through back corridors, through kitchens, tunnels, freight elevators. They didn't see daylight. They didn't see other travelers. Only mop buckets, lockers, silence. They were escorted onto an airplane like cargo. The cuffs came off before takeoff. That was the only mercy. They sat in the last row. They didn't speak. They were not offered food or beverage. Maria curled into herself and shivered under a blue airline blanket. Charlotte watched the door of the lavatory for 6 hours without blinking. She needed to know where the exits were. The next day, in Tokyo, the agent slid their passports across the counter with one finger. Charlotte looked down. Denied entry was stamped in red at their previous stop by the American agent. Tokyo's admittance was stamped below. The American stamp didn't feel like just a mark, though. It felt like a wound, the kind that would fester, the kind that would leave a nasty scar, the sort one carries around for life. The two shattered women, who only the day before had been carefree girls on the vacation of their lives, sat quietly by a vending machine in Narita. Maria didn't even open her tea. Charlotte spilled half of hers down her shirt and didn't even bother to wipe it. What was the point? She would be burning these clothes when she got back to Germany. She would be burning her whole memory of this trip. At the moment, she couldn't even look her best friend in the eye. The trip had been her idea. Would they get past this? Charlotte didn't know. When she opened her notebook, her hand didn't move. She wasn't a girl who documented beautiful things anymore. She was a girl who watched for uniforms, who didn't undress near mirrors, who she knew would now forever sleep with one eye open. When the pen finally touched paper, she didn't write a story of their travels. She wrote instead, "Danke für nichts, Amerika. Fick dich. Thanks for nothing, America. Fuck you." Author's note. This story, while dramatized with fictional elements, is not fiction. Admittedly, I do not claim intimate knowledge of either woman, so I imagined, for purposes of dramatization, their thoughts and emotional states and feelings. I make no claims regarding their veracity. That said, every violation described here happened to two real young women from Rostock, Germany, on March 18th and 19th of 2025. Charlotte Paul and Maria Lepere were detained, strip-searched, humiliated, and deported by U.S. Customs and Border Protection in Honolulu for the crime of being spontaneous, joyful, and free. They were not criminals. They were not threats. They were tourists, carefree teen girls on a world tour, living a dream they'd worked and saved for. The United States, instead of welcoming them, brutalized them. Their story made international headlines. No one in authority apologized. No one was held accountable. If this story leaves you angry, good. I did my job. It should make all of us angry. That's why it is important to dramatize stories like this, so that we can feel them. In the end, this isn't just about two girls. It's about a system built on suspicion and cruelty, one that treats foreigners like subhuman refuse, guilty with no option for being found innocent. Some stories exist to comfort. This one exists to indict. Fuck this system that did this to them, and fuck the US customs officials who just followed orders. What the hell have we become?